A young British inventor has come up with the idea of a pot that tells people when their indoor plants need watering. The Smart Plant Pot has been designed to help understand plants better. It can identify temperature, humidity and water levels and tell people what they need for optimum care. Watering plants can be a hit or miss affair, with people often giving either too much or too little water, often damaging the plant in the process. And it's this that inspired designer Rebecca Peterson to spend 2 years developing the Smart Plant Pot. Using computer technology, the Smart Pot monitors the heat, humidity and water levels in plants, and through sensors and programmed voice chips can alert owners to take appropriate action. It's designed to teach people to interact with their plants. The pot also has the added advantage of being able to be programmed to work automatically. When people are away on holiday, it can be triggered through the telephone. It's hoped that the Smart Plant Pot will be available to buy in the near future and help people get a better understanding of how to look after their indoor plants. The Great Barrier Reef is larger than the UK and Ireland combined. It's a World Heritage Area and is the only living organism that can be seen from space. The diversity of the Great Barrier Reef's stunning marine life is extraordinary. Dugongs, turtles, whales, sharks, almost all of the world's 400 types of coral and 1,500 species of fish all live here. But it's also an area under threat from damaging fishing practices, including overfishing, land-based pollution like soil erosion, and agricultural runoff and coral bleaching caused by global warming. Despite being a marine park and a World Heritage Area, until now, only 4.5% has been protected from fishing. Under a new plan, fishing will be banned in 1/3 of the marine park. That's 11 million hectares. The Great Barrier Reef isn't just one of the world's most precious natural treasures, but one of Australia's most valuable tourism assets. More marine sanctuaries mean more fish and other marine life that will continue to improve the region's value and attraction as a tourist hub. Agincourt Reef is just one of nearly 3,000 that make up the huge expanse of the Great Barrier Reef. Concentrating tourism in this area and others like it means that most of the reef remains undisturbed. Some of the damage to the reef is blamed on fishing, but there are other threats, including global warming and soil swept down rivers from farms after heavy rain. This move has set a new benchmark in global marine conservation and will have very real benefits for the environmental health of the Great Barrier Reef. The crack of dawn peels into daylight to reveal four-wheel drive freaks crashing into dry riverbeds, bushland and gorges. Believe it or not, this event is about conservation. It's an effort to raise funds for Kenya's conservation. 65 teams of fanatic drivers headed into the bush to compete in a challenge with an objective of driving through the shortest distance between 13 checkpoints. The annual event has a different course each year, and participants are never aware of their route until the night before. They drive through rough terrain with adrenaline levels at their highest. The excitement of man and machine bashing through the bush is paradoxically a worthy effort in Kenya's conservation and a pleasure for most of those who are there as spectators, both local and visitors. This race is currently the largest fundraiser for a fence being built around Kenya's Aberdares rainforest, home to the endangered black rhinos. The fence doesn't just keep poachers out, it also helps to protect people living in the area. Preserving the Aberdare ecosystem is all the more important because 5 of Kenya's largest rivers begin there. This race raised around $400,000 US, an amount that will go a long way in helping the cause. It's also not cheap to take part in the race. Every car must raise at least $1,300 US for this competitive event. The winner of this year's race, Rob Collins, driving his Range Rover, may have had a lot of car trouble, but he managed to win by driving the shortest distance of 6.377 kilometres.
Okay.
Just hold it.
Fun, adrenaline and bush bashing aside, these machine and animal lovers did indeed raise a good amount towards the country's conservation. The possibilities for finding lasting peace in Germany used to be quite restrictive. People used to have the choice of burial, cremation, or burial at sea. This all changed when a German company, Friedwald Deutschland, introduced the forest burial. Customers are invited to choose their own personal tree within the forest. This is then given a marker for relatives to identify the last resting places of loved ones. Switzerland used to be the only country to allow this type of burial until the town council in North Hessen granted Friedwald Deutschland permission to bury customers within Reichenwald's forest. The bodies have to be cremated for hygiene purposes, and the ashes are buried at the base of the tree. The forest provides a peaceful resting place where relatives can pay their respects in tranquil surroundings. A tree is leased for 99 years at a cost of €3,500, in which time it cannot be cut down. And the interest in this type of burial has taken many people by surprise. The graves are very subtle, with a small numbered marker placed on the tree to identify the last resting place. Many visitors to the forest do not even realize they are walking through a cemetery. Almost no flora grows in Kuwait. In the summer, temperatures rise to 60 degrees Celsius or more, and very little can grow in such harsh climatic conditions. One Kuwait farm, though, has found an interesting solution. Glenn Carrigan, an agricultural expert from Australia, and Dr. Abdul Rahmanal Al Maghalan in Kuwait have made it possible to grow vegetables all year round. They use a special hydroponic method. It enables the plants to withstand extremely high temperatures, a method useful for a country that imports almost all of its food products. The farm, the first using such methods in Kuwait, is maintained by 12 workers. Here, on 2,000 square meters of farming land, they grow lettuce, basil, parsley and other herbs. The special greenhouses provide a climate that the plants need. The aim is to eliminate the effect of the sun's radiation by creating a special shield that reflects the sun's rays and protects the plants from the heat. The plants are placed in special cups with no soil. The water passes through the roots and is collected in a tank. It is then resent to the plant on a continuous basis. The moisture that appears during the process cools the air to create the desired temperature. Maybe there will come a time when the word desert will be associated with something other than just sand. Rome's riverboat service for tourists and local commuters has 6 boats running the length of the city. It was funded by a private consortium costing €2.5 million. The consortium also launched a 5-strong fleet to move commuters up and down the Tiber for just €1. To get the project off the ground, officials hauled 38 tons of tree branches and garbage out of the Tiber, scrubbed kilometres of graffiti off the riverbed walls, and pulled down tent villages in the northern and southern extremes. More than a year ago, thousands of fish were floating belly up along the Tiber in one of its worst environmental disasters, blamed on secret chemical dumping. Now, for just on €10, tourists can drift past Castel Sant'Angelo, the Roman mausoleum converted into a papal fortress during the Middle Ages, gaze on dozens of medieval palazzo lining the river, and sail by the oldest bridge in the city, built in 142 BC. With Paris as their model, officials hope some 15% of the 7 million tourists who visit Rome each year will be tempted to come and try the river tours. But unlike Paris, Rome's river runs between high walls built in the 1870s to prevent floods, which block many of the spectacular sights that have made the Eternal City famous. Rome's Tiber River, which winds right through the heart of the city, has for years been more of an environmental problem than a tourist hotspot. But council officials say all that has changed with a riverboat service that offers glimpses of Rome's medieval past and the chance to dine while floating down the Tiber at night. After decades of civil war, Cambodia's uniquely preserved pristine forests are under renewed pressure as logging companies and commercial farming follow refugees returning to their ancestral jungle homes. Official statistics are hard to find, but it is estimated that about 40% of Cambodia is still carpeted in untouched forest, a potential treasure trove of undiscovered birds, beasts and plants. Tama Bang is nestled in the Cardamoms Conservation Area, a 400,000 hectare expanse of primeval jungle in southwest Cambodia. The government has imposed a nationwide moratorium on commercial logging, which has halted large-scale felling, but that hasn't stopped the damage. Locals such as Tab Savi, who works with Conservation International, is hopeful that the international attention will help. The challenge is to preserve the Cardamoms in Tam Bang, a haven for wonderful beasts such as the gibbon or Siamese crocodile, while at the same time catering for the very pressing needs of Cambodia's 13 million people. The recent history of Tama Bang illustrates the problem. The area had been evacuated in 1979 by the Vietnamese to eradicate potential support for the Khmer Rouge. It remained empty for 18 years until refugees such as Savi Sim were allowed to return home. But along with the refugees came the road, the hunters, and the bulldozers of a well-connected local guy with plans to transform tracts of the protected forest into a fruit farm. Conservation groups are up in arms over farms which they say will make one fast buck in the short term, but destroy many more in the future as Cambodia develops what many see as Southeast Asia's Jurassic Park to high-value eco-tourism. The Cardamom Mountains could be made into a haven for eco-tourists. Residents in Dunedin in the southern district of Otago in New Zealand found more unseasonal snow on their roads than they could handle. The frost and ice was enough to turn their neighbourhood roads into an ice rink. Empty parked vehicles took on lives of their own as they slid downhill, hitting other vehicles, and cars with drivers were no better off. A 10-car pileup was the end result of icy roads as police were kept busy for the day. Some pedestrians found walking dangerous enough. Meanwhile, the Automobile Association of New Zealand urged extreme caution on highways in the districts of Otago and Southland. Meteorologists said most of Dunedin's snow was expected to melt away, but that the frosts and the cold weather would probably continue. The genocide in Rwanda in 1994 that left an estimated 1 million people dead is usually blamed on ethnic hatred, but an important factor in sparking the genocide was environmental. James Kazana, the country's former environment minister, was one of a range of environmental experts who met at a Wilton Park Conference Centre south of London to discuss the role of environment in sparking conflict, particularly in the developing world. Foreign Office Minister John Batley told a conference that adopting responsible environmental management urgently was the only way to avoid increased political tension caused by rampant consumption of water, forests and energy resources. At the Christmas Tree Forest, located 50 kilometres east of Mexico City, many families can enjoy selecting their own Christmas tree to take home and at the same time help conserve the 120-acre ecological reserve. More than 200,000 visitors travel to the forest annually from the state of Mexico, Morelos and the capital, where they can choose from 450,000 trees. The prime concept of the park is to allow visitors to cut down their own tree without causing any ecological damage to the forest by allowing the trunks to regenerate, and the park loses no trees. Domingo Hernandez, the forest coordinator, adds that 30% of the trees they count on are products of the reforestation process. This allows them to offer a varied selection of pines, such as Douglas firs, similar to those imported from the United States and Canada. Visitors are assisted by guides, and children can attend workshops about the environment. Mexico City residents make use of 150,000 trees from the 40 park areas located in the different municipalities surrounding the capital. The national demand for Christmas trees is an estimated 1.6 million, of which 800,000 will come from national parks.